welcome Tika, week 5 of the alchemist training. I'm going to actually get started with a little new moon energy update before we roll out with class, and I think it will kind of help all of you students, and we'll probably post this part on the community group tomorrow just to give them a little scoop as far as energetically. But it's interesting how energetically this new moon, it all ties in perfectly with what we are doing in Tika right now as far as working through this alchemist energy of really becoming the alchemist. I've been following a lot of you guys on the messenger, and there's a whole bunch of you that are getting ready to start the Becoming the Real You workshop again. And I'm super excited. And if you guys want to hold off and get through Saturday's class before you do that, I think it will really help you navigate your new characters even more perfectly aligned, because what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go into the 5th week of the 7 steps of transformation, moving towards the alchemist, which is self-love. So we made it. We made it to week 5 of the self-love, and it lines perfectly with this new moon energy, which is all about seeing inside of yourself the areas that you have been basically hiding from yourself, and the secrets you have been keeping from yourself, and really pulling those to the surface and allowing a really solid new intention to be made for this coming year, and this coming year of infinite abundance, this coming year of love, of integrating all aspects of ourselves into that solar plexus energy of the power of love. And as February of 2018, the rise and basically the rise of the divine masculine has activated. And what that means is, the divine goddess has been rising for a couple of years now to kind of get in balance with this divine masculine energy. And now the goddess energy is at this peak where now the divine masculine is beginning to rise again. So we need everything as we're inching along in this ascension process to be balanced. So everything we're doing is working towards balance of self, balance of planet, balance of personalities, balance of love, balance of purpose. And so having this kind of new masculine energy rise up is going to be great for women, because men are going to start coming around to the conversations that you've been having even more. They'll be able to softly and nurturing accept some more of that divine feminine within them. And what we talked about in Second Sunday was all about taking your power back. And I know that you've probably had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, especially like the last 3 weeks, to just practice taking your power back, but doing it in a really loving way where it's not malicious. It's just about self-love. So we're taking our power back in the name of self-love, which means we're learning no thank you. We're learning to say yes. We're learning that the universe only knows yes, which means every time we say no to ourselves and others in a way that limits any of us, that we actually move back into fear. And that's really what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks in Tika, is that, as duality starts to really stretch, and that's what this eclipse energy is all about, is you're probably feeling really stretched right now. It's like none of us can hide from our blind spots. It's either love or it's fear. For many, many years, we had this huge gray area that empaths and light workers and messengers like to hide in the gray area, because in the gray area, our lives make sense, because we were both love and shadow. We were both light and pain. We have been all of these things that people that have been on one side of the spectrum haven't really understood about us. That's who we've been our entire lives, is more in the gray area. We were able to see both sides of this planet, of people's thoughts, of people's feelings, and that made it a very odd place for us to be accepted, is this gray area. But we needed that gray area because we needed to be able to kind of play both sides and have our own shadow experiences and our own suffering, so that we could remember love the fast track way. Because believe it or not, anytime you feel pressure, there is a desire born inside of you that makes you seek that light, that freedom, that joy, that bliss, that abundance. And so we've all pressurized ourselves to to go on that fast track to really push ourselves into our own awareness, you know, because it's very easy to get lost in this world of circumstance, because it's very intoxicating. You know, everything feels so real. You know, loss feels real. You know, lack feels real. And none of those things are real, but we have been able to stay as empaths in this space of this gray area where we can navigate through the shadow and light and feel a sense of knowing, because we knew that we were both. And as this energy begins to pull that gray area apart, if you guys remember, I think it was in January, I did a new moon report where I said that the souls that have, you know, incarnated here, and everyone on earth right now is making an unconscious, subconscious choice to move into evolution or remain in density. Everyone had the same choice. Even the light workers and the ones who you would call the sleepers still had this choice. And what you've noticed since January, there has been extreme pressure, which means that people are kind of beginning to get in their new comfort zones of suffering or love, seeking of love, and there's not a lot of gray area anymore. Because really what 5D is saying we're going to be putting it into duality, so we cannot have this shadowy gray area anymore. It's like when I said dress rehearsals are over, now this is the real show, and there are only two emotions. There is love and there's fear, which means that there's only two states of being. You're either being fear or you're being love. And that's where the crisis is happening all over the planet right now, because people are really embracing fear and people are really desiring love. And that's where you're feeling this perspective right now. You're feeling kind of this push and pull. You know, families are separating right now, relationships are separating right now, dreams have become separate from what they used to be, and it's going to leave you in this space of being able to see very clearly what your fears are. Because again, we can hide so much in the shadow. We can hide in all of the Tika work that we've been doing in the last couple of weeks about spiritual bypassing and fear personalities and unconscious truths and all of these places that we could hide the fact that we haven't been able to just choose love yet on this planet. It hasn't been safe. So now that we have made that decision to choose love, everything that's fear has to rise to the surface. And that is what's happening right now. And that's why a lot of you in our sessions are feeling kind of like, oh, like, you know, and especially some of you mentor students, because I'm really going into your fears and I'm bringing them to the surface so that we can lovingly transcend them. So that's really what we're going to be working on in the next 2 weeks here at Tika, is first going into the dark side of self-love and then moving into the light side of self-love, which is intuition. So next week, we actually start intuition training. We start opening up all of your other senses that you have had dormant, so that you could basically run fear programs over them so that you could have a false sense of security on this planet, which you don't need anymore. Because again, the karmic cycles have come to a close, and as we're sitting in between this kind of eclipse season, and it's really going to be kind of going on for the next 6 months, it's like your own blind spots are going to be just projected forward. And all of those things that, you know, you've been doubting or curious or wondering about are going to be crystal clear for you to be in awareness of. But it's not going to be the most comfortable experience, as it's either going to be love or it's going to be fear. Which means, is it safe for you to be love? Or are you still afraid of the fact that you are love? So really that's what this new moon is about, is sitting with yourself and just making a clear decision that if you're ready to be love, and if you're ready to, you know, move on to the quest of the evolutionary process of heaven on earth, then part of you moving back to love is exposing fear and standing up to fear and taking your power back in self-love around fear, because this is not going to be scary. It's just going to be part of you that you have hid from the world because it's been very unsafe for you to be completely transparent as this huge being of love that you actually are. You have shoved yourself into a tiny, tiny, tiny box called a body and pretended that you were something other than love. And now that box is just not fitting the same way. You're feeling stretched. And so what's happening is we're going to expose all of those parts of ourselves in our manifestation process, which means they will expose and project in your relationships, in your intimate relationships, in your outer relationships, in your personal relationship with yourself, in your car, in your house, in your money, in your all of those things, because again, your blind spots that you can't honor within will be projected right outside of you as a reflection for you to be able to take ownership of and transcend. So that is my new moon report for this month, February. And as we kind of activate that divine masculine this month, you'll feel a sense of strength within you to be able to kind of have that intuitive response of, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity for me to take my power back, and set an intention with yourself that the only thing to fear is fear itself, and your only weapon in the going months is love. So practicing love in all forms that you can. We're going to be doing some heart activations in class in Tika this week and Saturday, tonight and Saturday and next week. So there will be plenty of opportunities for you to be able to get some new mantras and to get some new meditations to use, because believe it or not, we're pretty rusty in this area. So, all right, so that's my new moon report.